This lecture is on important terms related to ancient and Indian history. There are around 8-10 questions in the preliminary examination related to terms and first I will be throwing light on the political terms or the terms having political character or political color or the terms related to Politico-Administrative system. And since this lecture is on both ancient and medieval Indian history, so I have presented the terms separately. Take a look. So first, terms having political character, political color, or the terms related to politico-administrative systems. And here is the bifurcation. Ancient, and these are many terms, and medieval, and these are many terms that fall under medieval. But the list is long. Here in ancient you have 8, here you have 8. Then again, this continues in the next presentation. You have 9 to 12 in ancient, and medieval you have 9 to 17, and it further continues 18 to 23. This is a kind of selection, but since there are many, and sometimes the selection also becomes difficult. But here there is a move, you can say, to select in such a way so that they cover almost all the relevant terms that occur in the preliminary examination and that are slightly complex in nature and trouble civil services aspirants in understanding ancient and medieval history. So now I'm going to start one by one. So first, starting with ancient. In ancient, the first term is Adhyaksha, second is Mahamata, third is Kumaramati. They have some elements of similarity because all these three refer to a specific official or the official cadre. The first one, Adhyaksha, was an official cadre associated with Mauryan Empire. And Adhyakshas were high-ranking officials, you can say, under the Mauryas. And there is a big description of Adhyakshas in a famous book, Arthashastra, written by Kautilya. And Adhyakshas were appointed in many fields, but mainly economic and military fields. Second one, Mahamata, also known as Mahamatras, were also high-ranking officials representing an official cadre under the Mauryas. We don't get the reference of Mahamatas in Kautilya's Arthashastra. We get this reference in Ashokan inscriptions. And there is a very famous Mahamata known as Dhamma Mahamatas. And this office was created by the great Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, whose function was to propagate his famous policy known as Dhamma. So these two terms, Adhyakshas and Mahamatas or Mahamatras, represent official cadres associated with Mauryas. The third term, Kumaramati. This was also an official cadre, a high ranking, associated with Gupta political system. And they were also deployed on various offices. So now the difference between the 1, 2 on the one hand and 3 on the other is that 1 and 2 were the part of the Mauryan political system and 3 was the part of the Gupta political system. Next one is Ashoka's Dhamma. Ashoka was a great Mauryan emperor. He pursued a policy known as Dhamma, and so we call it Ashoka's Dhamma. In history writing, there was a debate also about the nature of Dhamma. Some consider it Buddhism, some consider it an approach representing creation of a religious order. But now the consensus is that Dhamma was not Buddhism. It was not a religious order. It was essentially a policy being the part of the larger political policies of Ashoka, and whose aim was to present a broad parameter or broad guidelines, you can say, for good conduct for the subject people. So Ashoka's objective was to present before the subject people broad guidelines for some moral, ethical and good conduct. And the political intention behind this was to bring about a social harmony. And social harmony would be bringing about political harmony, and political harmony was a political necessity to maintain a huge empire what Ashoka had created. So this is all about Ashoka's Dhamma. Next is Bhukti. Bhukti was a politico-administrative unit under the Gupta Empire. See, many imperial systems had a character like Mauryan, Gupta, even later Mughals, Delhi Sultanate. And this was the division of the whole empire into politico-administrative units. So under the Guptas also we find this division, and the largest unit was Bhukti. So Bhukti was somewhat like province, you can say, and the head of Bhukti was Uparik. So every Bhukti was headed by a high-ranking official who can be considered as a kind of provincial governor, and he was Uparik. So this is number 5. Number 6, 7, 8. This I am going to discuss together. These 3 also represent politico-administrative units. But these politico-administrative units we find in South India, particularly under the Chola kingdom. Cholas emerged as a great ruling house, you can say, in Tamil region in mid-19th century, and they continued till 12th century. And under their kingdom, so this was a vast kingdom, sometimes the term Chola Empire is also used. There were politico-administrative divisions, and there were Mandalam, Valanadu and Nadu. These 3 are in descending order. This means Mandalam was the largest unit, below Mandalam was Valanadu, and below Valanadu was Nadu. So one mandalam consisted of many Valanadu and one Valanadu consisted of many Nadus. Mandalam can be considered as some kind of province. One more point important here. Nadu, that is the eighth one, was originally a large agricultural settlement. And this large agricultural settlement was converted into a Politico-Administrative revenue unit. This way, Nadu gives you two meanings. One, a large agricultural settlement in south, and two, a Politico-Administrative unit. But this gives you one more meaning, that Nadu had a local assembly, and this was also known as Nadu. So Nadu gives you finally three meanings. One, the original one, that Nadu was a large agricultural settlement, the settlement of the agriculturist. Two, it was a Politico-Administrative revenue unit. And three, it was a local assembly, that is the assembly of the local people of the region that was Nadu. Suppose you have in preliminary examination multiple choice question and Nadu, and all the three options are there. This means all the three options are the correct option. So when you have more than one correct option, then you are supposed to choose the appropriate one. Or you have many, like three or more, then you have to choose the most appropriate. So you have to choose the most appropriate or the more appropriate. In this case, more appropriate or the most appropriate would be a large agricultural settlement, because originally Nadu was this. So this is all about 6, 7, 8. Now I move on to next term under ancient. Take a look. Now in ancient, the next is Ganasangha. Ganasangha refers to republics. There emerge two kinds of, you can say, political system in ancient times. One was monarchy and second was republic. Republic and monarchy, these two were two different political systems. Monarchy was characterized by an all-powerful monarch or king, whereas a republic was characterized by a large public assembly consisting of many members and a head of this public assembly. And this public assembly was the nucleus of the political system. So here we find absence of an all-powerful king. There emerged republics during post-Vedic age, or the age of Buddha, or the age of Mahavira. You might be knowing certain names like Lichvis. Lichvis represented Ganasangha during post-Vedic age. This is a brilliant example of Ganasangha. And then again we find the rise of republics or Ganasanghas about 300 C. So Ganasangha represent republican system, form of political system that emerged in ancient times in certain periods. First in 6th centuries BC. Next is Mahajanpad. Mahajanpad refers to the early estates in ancient India. We get references of 16 Mahajanpads during the period 600 BC to 300 BC, that is post-Vedic age. These 16 represented the first 16 estates, you can say. So they were the early estates in ancient times. Some good examples of these earlier states or Mahajanpads are Magad, Kausal, Kasi, Champa. You might have heard the name of a king Bimbisar. You might have heard the name of a king Ajatasattu. So Bimbisar and Ajatasattu were the two, you can say, important kings of the Mahajanpad, the Magad, that became the most important. And sometimes you get the term Janapad. Janapad is essentially a settlement, a human settlement. And the conglomeration of various Janpads gave birth to Mahajanpad. And this event belongs to the post-Vedic age. Janpads emerge in the latter Vedic age. That means there emerge human settlements. Jana means literally tribes. So here I am considering tribes as the human beings settling down at a particular place. So that came to be known as Janpad. And the integration of many Janpads gave birth to Mahajanpad. Next is Chhatrap. Chhatrap, also known as Satrap, represented a provincial system under the foreign ruling groups that entered India in the post-Mauryan age, such as Indo-Greeks, such as Sakas, such as Kushanas, and Parthians or Pallavas. So post-Mauryan age is characterized by the entry of foreign ruling groups. They settled down in India and gave birth to a new political system. In fact, they became rulers in India in several parts, particularly northern part. And under them, there was a system that was provincial system. This was known as Satrapi system or Chhatrap system. And the head of this, who acted somewhat like a provincial governor, you can say, known as Chhatrap, and sometimes also Mahachhatrap. Sometimes you get terms like Western Chhatrap. This simply means a Chhatrap system that existed in Western India. And this was connected to the foreign ruling group, Sakas. Now the next one is Vishayapati. Under the Guptas, who ruled during the period 300 C to 550 C, there existed administrative divisions. One administrative division you have come across just now, that is Bhukti. That was the largest Politico-Administrative division under the Guptas. Below the Bhuktis, there was another Politico-Administrative unit known as Vishaya. And the head of the Vishaya was Vishayapati. So, if I explain this way, that under the Guptas, that is this period, 300 C to 550 C. There was a Politico-Administrative division known as Bhukti, and below that there was a Politico-Administrative division known as Vishaya. Bhukti was headed by Uparik, and the Vishya was headed by Vishyapati. In modern context, you can consider Bhukti somewhat like a province, and Uparik as the head of the province, and Vishya somewhat like a district, and Vishyapati somewhat like the head of the district. So this is all about the term Vishyapati. So this is the last one in the list of ancient